Hello guys, it's Johnny time and welcome to another DeFi tutorial. Another day, another huge DeFi bridge hack, and this time $190 million has been stolen from Nomad Bridge. And this is super interesting case which we're gonna cover today because this is considered the first decentralized hacks, which means that it's not only one actor who was able to steal the funds, but a lot of different wallets that exploited the vulnerability and were able to get access to some of the funds of the bridge. Some of them are black hat hackers who use Tornado Cash in order to mix the funds and steal them, and some of them are white hat hackers that at this moment are helping and returning the funds to the Nomad official wallet. So this is super interesting video. We're gonna cover exactly what was the vulnerability, how was it able, how the attackers and exploiters were able to exploit it, what kind of vulnerability it was a complicated or simple vulnerability. Could the vulnerability be prevented by smart contract auditing or not? And also we'll see how the people exploited the vulnerability themselves. We'll see some on-chain proof of exploitation of the vulnerability. And finally, we'll see what's going on with the attack right now. How many funds have been brought back, how many not? We'll do deep analysis of this exploitation with a lot of on-chain proof, and it's gonna be super educational and interesting video. So make sure to subscribe to the channel and turn on the bell notification button for more cybersecurity videos about blockchain hacks and tutorials. Now, without further ado, let's get started. Alright, so this is the Nomad Bridge website, nomad.xyz, and this is an optimistic cross-chain bridge that mainly used to bridge funds from Ethereum blockchain to EVMOS, which is like Cosmos EVM chain, and Moonbeam network, which is the EVM compatible Moonriver blockchain. And this was the main bridge, and it held in the smart contract on Ethereum $190 million of different ERC20 tokens and also Ethereum coins. And as you can see now, when you go to the main website, the main message on the website is a request for white hat hackers to return the ETH and the ERC20 tokens to this kind of official address. And of course, if you go to the bridge website, the bridge is halted because it's broken and stolen. All the funds have been stolen, and this is the case right now. Now, before we dive into the vulnerability and how the attackers were able to exploit a smart contract, I just wanted to look at this kind of interesting thing. Usually when we look at projects, we see that big VCs back them up, or big projects back them up, like in this case, Crypto.com, OpenSea, Polygon, Wintermute, all these kind of VCs and companies backed up Nomad Bridge XYZ, and actually they raised a seed investments. And the irony here is that they posted it 4 days before the bridge has been exploited. $22 million has been raised for seed investment from all these kind of brands that you can see over here. And this is some kind of lesson that we can learn, that not even though a project is backed up by big firms, big brands, it doesn't mean that it's safe. It doesn't mean that it's secure. And there are a lot of vulnerability these days in DeFi and smart contracts. And unfortunately, there are some black hat hackers who exploit them and steal the funds. And this is just a small thing that I wanted to mention here. Not always, don't trust projects because they're backed up by big brands. Alright, so now let's deep dive into the vulnerability and the exploitation. So this hack is actually, this vulnerability is not very easy to detect, but very, very easy to exploit. Now let's look at this great thread by Gil that explains exactly how everyone could exploit this vulnerability and steal the funds without deploying any smart contracts, without doing anything, just copy pasting a transaction and sending it through his own wallet or through Etherscan, the website, connect the wallet to Etherscan, and just repeat the transaction. And so the problem relies on the process function of the smart contract. This is the process function that all the attackers that were stealing funds from the bridge were requesting and sending transaction to. And this process function basically bytes. It gets a parameter which is in form of bytes, and it's called message. This is one parameter this function gets. And out of these bytes, the function itself extracts some different parameters from this encoded message. And one of the parameters that it extracts from the message is the message hash. This is some kind of value that's supposed to prove that this bridge is actually happened. Okay, so this is a hash that is being validated on the smart contract in order to release the requested funds that also encoded inside this following message. And here you can see a require function that calls an acceptable route. This is basically a function that if it returns true, and it means that we can bypass this requirement. Okay, so if acceptable route returns true with the given hash of the message, it means that the require has been passed and the funds are being released from the smart contract to the wallet as this is being encoded into the message bytes. And let's see how if it's accepted or not. So we need to jump into the acceptable route function. So this process function calls the acceptable route function, and this acceptable route function is actually checking the route if it's proven and processed. Okay, so these are integers that it basically checks by this kind of route parameter. And the problem is that this function also returns true when the route is 0 because of the initialization of the smart contract. Which means that once the developers of the Nomad Bridge smart contract initialize it, they give it the value of 0000, which means 0 basically. And once they initialize this smart contract with this value, it means that you can verify any message by giving the 00 as the hash, as the root. And basically any message can be verified. You just need to take a transaction that happened in the past in the bridge to release fund, and instead of changing to a valid hash, you just change it to 00000, put your own address, and then the smart contract will send the funds and release them. Even though the bridge transaction would never happen, it would think that this is a valid message, valid hash, because you put 000 and the if passed through, and it will send the funds to the exploiter wallet who sent the message. So this is very, very simple to exploit vulnerability, but to find it is quite challenging because it basically relies on the deployment of the smart contract. Because if smart contract auditing company would audit the contract initially, it wouldn't see any problem because you're not supposed to initialize a smart contract with 0 as parameter. It's not supposed to be a hash that would be accepted by the smart contract. This means that even if the smart contracts would be audited in the past, it might be that the auditors would not notice this kind of vulnerability because it wouldn't exist. It exists only once the developers deploy the smart contract with this kind of 00000 variable, which is challenging to detect unless you do some penetration testing and red hat teaming and verify the smart contracts after deployment on mainnet or on testnet, which was not the case here. So to detect the vulnerability, it's quite hard, but to deploy it and to exploit it, it's very simple. You just need to copy a successful transaction, just change the hash to 000, put your address as destination, send it to the smart contract, and it will send the funds to your wallet. And now jumping into the bridge, the actual smart contract on the Ethereum blockchain, you can see that right now it's drained out. It used to have $190 million in funds in ETH and tokens, and now it's drained out. And if we go to the transactions 1.5 days ago, you can see here the first exploitation, the first transaction here. Once you go to the 27th page right now, it might be different once you check it out. I will put all the links in the description below, so no worry, you can check it out yourself. And actually, in order to learn better, I recommend you to check out the transactions yourself. And you can see here, this is the first draining transaction at the 1st of August, 21:32 at night, and you can see that the attacker is repeating a transaction and stealing 100 wrapped BTC again and again. And suddenly the interesting thing over here is you can see that it's multiple addresses that are replicating the exploitation and also stealing the funds. So a lot of front runners, also people who listen to the mempool and simulate transaction to see their outcome, they replicated the attack in order to steal funds as well. And it became Wild West, because once the attacker has been exploited the smart contract the first time and the transaction was available in the memory pool and into the public blockchain, a lot of other people took advantage of it. And since the exploitation was very easy, they also exploited the bridge, and during I think 1 hour the bridge was slowly, not very slowly, was drained one after another. And you can see here this how it started with Bitcoin, wrapped Bitcoin stolen from the bridge address, and once we go more forward in time, we can see more wrapped ETH being stolen, and USDC, a lot of USDC, and a lot of other tokens. Frax, a lot of Frax token has been stolen by different actors. And this is actually a very great analytics page on dune.com that someone created that summarize all the different addresses that has been that exploited this kind of vulnerability. And here you can see that 41 different addresses grabbed $152 million, which is 80% in the exploits. 7 of them are MEV, minor extractable value bots, basically people who listen to the mempool and repeat transactions in order to make profit. $7 million has been stolen. There is Rari Capital Arbitrum exploiter, which is a previous exploiter that exploited another vulnerability with the FA and DAY tokens in Arbitrum, stole $3 million. 6 White Hat Hackers, which is good, which means that there are some people that saw this vulnerability and they wanted to exploit it themselves to save some of the funds so they can send them back later to Nomad Bridge so they can recover from this kind of attack, which is 10%, not so bad. And some people with ENS names domains as well got $6.1 million. Here you can see the top exploiters that got the most amount of money out of this vulnerability. And if you scroll down, you can see different charts. For example, the TVL change, you can see that it had $190 million and in one day it just went to zero. And these are the ERC20 tokens balance. You can see recent flows of the bridge and a lot of different interesting charts and analytics about the bridge exploitation. I will put a link to the description below so you can check it out yourself. And here you can see an official ENS name, official Twitter account that is basically posted his public address on Twitter and were public to the community. He was one of the people who exploited the vulnerability and stole millions of dollars. And this is a Bitleak that actually removed his Twitter account because he don't want to remove any evidence or get caught. But actually, when you check this address of Bitleak or whatever his name is, Bitleak, and you can see that eventually he returned the funds. So he stole millions of dollars. He stole a lot of wrapped ETH from the bridge. He stole some wrapped Bitcoin. He basically repeated and exploited the bridge. But eventually, if you go to the transactions, you can see that he sends a lot of Ether, 100 Ether, to the Nomad official funds recovery address, which we'll cover in a moment. So stay tuned in this video. Don't leave. We're going to see how many funds have been recovered so far. And now that we saw how people exploit it, let's see the actual transaction that was allowing them to exploit the vulnerability. So this is just an example transaction of some wallet that is exploiting the vulnerability in order to extract 200K USDC, as you can see, that was sent from the Nomad ERC20 bridge to this exploiter address. And as you can see here, he's calling, if you basically open the details of the transaction, you can see that he's calling the process function, which with a crafted message that basically tells the bridge to send the funds to his wallet, even though the message is not valid and the hash is not valid. And actually a nice thing to see is that there are some white hat hackers that were able to get the money, that once they saw the exploit, the vulnerability, they try to exploit it themselves to get out some funds. And here is one of them, 0xbeans.eth. Fucked up the bytecode for the first few transactions via the blah blah blah, doesn't matter, but managed to get few transactions through with a new wallet. And he had basically $600K that he was able to extract. No, 600K IAGON token, which I don't know how much it's worth. but he wants to give it back to the Nomad Capital Bridge. And here is another transaction from one of the White Hat hackers to the Nomad team, and it's encoded message into Ethereum blockchain. If you want to learn how to do these kind of things, to send messages on the Ethereum blockchain, make sure to subscribe, because there is an upcoming tutorial of how to do these kind of cool things. And here you can see the message that is sent to the Nomad Bridge team. This is White Hat Hacker, White Hack. I plan to return the funds, waiting for official communication from Nomad team. Please provide an email ID for communication. I have not swapped any asset even after knowing that USDC can be frozen. Transfer USDC, FRAX, and CQT tokens from other addresses in order to consolidate. I wish I could rescue more funds, but was too slow. I hope that other actors also plan to return the funds too. Bounty from Nomad team would be much appreciated. And as you can see over here, this is the wallet that Nomad team has initiated in order for White Hat hackers to return stolen funds, stolen or rescued funds, you name it. And you can see that already more than $9 million had been returned in form of USDC tokens, Tether, CQT, FRAX, wrapped ETH, and some ETH. So this is cool to see that there are some good people out there that are exploiting and rescuing funds in order to give them back later on. So the original owners of this money maybe will get some share back. This is very interesting case study, very interesting story about this kind of Nomad Bridge decentralized exploitation that many people, it was simple transaction. You didn't need to create your own smart contract and deploy it or create some kind of complex exploitation. You simply need to copy and paste and change the address of the transaction in order to steal millions of dollars, and that's what 41 different people did. Some of them are bad, chose to steal the funds and mix them through Tornado Cash, and some of them are good, chose to give them back to the Nomad Bridge that eventually, hopefully, will somehow compensate the users. So this was the tutorial. Let me know if you have any questions in the comments below, and if you enjoy this content, make sure to subscribe and smash the like button for more interesting content in the future. Thank you so much, and I will see you in the future tutorials. Bye bye.